All right, let's talk about bowel health. There's two primary pelvic floor muscle groups that I want you to be aware of with bowel health that we're going to talk about. So here's our pelvic bowl, pubic bone, and a tailbone, and then we have the pelvic floor muscles below. Here's the anus, and then you have surrounding the anus there, you have this group of muscles called the external anal sphincter. And so these are more superficial, as you can see, and they help to close that anus. Then you have, let's pretend like this is the rectal canal. And so basically, this is kind of how your colon works. You have the ascending colon coming up the right, then you have the transverse colon, and then you have the descending colon, and that descending colon kind of connects to your rectum, and then your rectum connects to your anus, and poop comes out. So you have a muscle, a pelvic floor muscle called the puborectalis. And what this very special pelvic floor muscle does is that it kinks that rectal canal. It's called the anorectal angle. It kinks it off. So here's the pubic bone, and then the tailbone would be back here. And this muscle helps to kink it off to keep it closed when it's not time to poop. And then that muscle lengthens and kind of turns off when it is time to poop. With this muscle, the best way to get it to lengthen and to have that angle straighten out is by squatting. So when you see a toddler squatting behind the sofa, what are they doing? They're pooping. Let's go over the bowel health techniques. Now, what I'm going to share with you is focusing on constipation. There are issues that can happen with bowel health in terms of other things like pain and also a frequency, urgency, and leaking. But we're focusing on constipation because we see that way more than we see the others, okay? So number one is stay hydrated. If you have hard poop that's dried out, how well is that going to come out? It's not, right? It's going to be like rabbit pellets. We have something called the Bristol stool scale, and we grade poop. We give it a grade from 1 to 7. So 1 would be like rabbit pellets, really hard to pass, and 7 is almost like it is liquid. Right, so really hard to control. Ideally, we want our poop in the 3 to 5 grade range. And so that's kind of like a squishy banana or even like peanut butter. Like it slides out. It has form though. It has some a firmer, like it's not liquid. Okay, so we want to avoid the two extremes and be in the middle. And that's called the Bristol stool scale. So a fiber-rich diet and good amount of water and fluids is going to help that poop stay softer. So 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day is the goal for most people. Again, this isn't medical advice for you, but that's the goal for most people. And then eating a diet rich in healthy fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes. These are all good things for your body. I want to give you an example of an apple. Okay, so if you eat an apple that's whole and it has the skin on it, that's the best kind of form of apple that you can eat. And as it begins to get processed, it loses nutrients and it loses fiber. Okay, so this apple has the most nutrients and the most fiber, and then let's say we peel it. Well, we took out some of that fiber, and then let's say then we make it into applesauce. We took out more of that fiber, and then let's say we make it into apple juice. It's even less fiber. That doesn't mean apple juice is bad. In fact, apple juice can help a lot of people poop, but the best source would be that apple, and that has the best amount of nutrients as well. Okay, next we have exercise regularly. So what happens when you walk your dog? You take your dog out for a walk. What happens? they poop, right? So exercising regularly, and some people even do some stretches and some walking first thing in the morning to help them poop. Find out what works best for your body. Relax the pelvic floor muscles when pooping. So if you can see that animation there, you have that anus relaxing and opening and softening. Don't ignore the urge. So many people, we're busy. Oh, I don't have time to poop right now. I don't have time to poop right now. The more you ignore the urge, the softer and weaker that urge is going to become, kind of like your conscience. So when you feel that urge, go as soon as you can. As you know, I mean, you don't have to run to the toilet every time, but you know, when you feel that urge, go. Listen to your body and listen to the sounds, identifying some of the signals that your body is sharing with you. I'm working with somebody, she's like 74 right now, and she has had problems with leaking poop and constipation like her whole life. And so just implementing some of these simple strategies that we're talking about, and now she's pooping every day and she's not leaking poop. And she said, Janice, I can now feel, I know when my body is talking to me when I need to poop. I never understood those signals before. I never knew, I wasn't listening. So listening to your body, and it feels differently to different people, but your body will tell you. And I would also say that you don't have to wait for the urge. So we're gonna get down to that one in a minute. Keep breathing and don't strain. Taking a deep breath and saying like grr or shh or moo. A lot of times what people will do when they're on the toilet, they're gonna especially if they're trying to pass rabbit pellets, right? So that's bad. We don't want to do that. That's bad for the pelvic floor. It's not good for your bowel health there. And so we want to keep breathing, keep that poop soft so it's not so hard to pass, and don't strain. Get into a daily routine, your bowels like routine. I am definitely a morning pooper. So that's one of the first things I do every morning. That's just part of my routine. I started that in physical therapy school. I started getting up 30 minutes earlier to have a bowel movement. And I'm not actually even sure, maybe we had a lecture on it, but I don't think so, because we weren't talking about bowel and bladder health in PT school or sexual health back in 92, 93, 94. So anyways, thankfully, I got into a good regular routine, and that's served me very well throughout my life, and I plan to continue that. So getting into that daily routine and following that as consistently as you can. If you miss a day or two every now and then, you know, it's not the end of the world. But if you do miss a day, getting back in as soon as you can, because the longer that poop stays inside of you, the harder it's going to get. Gastrocolic reflex training. So this is a reflex that's in your body. If you've ever noticed that you have the urge to poop 20 or 30 minutes after you eat or drink something, that's that reflex kind of kicking in. So especially for people that have a difficult time with feeling the urge, because although, yes, I'm saying listen to the urge. If you don't feel anything and you don't know what it feels like, then it's difficult to know. So sometimes using mealtime as a tool, a lot of people with quadriplegic, like spinal cord, that have a spinal cord injury, will use this reflex to go poop. So it is possible even to have a regular bowel routine and not feel it. So I want you to know that. And then this can also apply to children. So by age 5, they should have adult patterns of voiding established. And so advocating these things, if you have children or you have children around you, advocating for listening to their body and doing all these wonderful things that we're talking about, you can be the bowel expert in your family and your friend group as well. Abdominal massage. So this is basically where we talked about how the colon kind of goes up. So it comes up the right, across and down. So this is the ascending colon, the transverse colon, and the descending colon. And so doing a colon massage there to yourself, kind of scooping in those circles and going in that direction can be helpful for some people to help them poop. Toileting posture, like we were talking about, squatting. I love squatty potties, getting into that squatting position, whether your knees are up or whether your trunk is down, getting into that position is going to help you poop better. Splinting a rectocele. This is a little more complicated, okay? So basically you have, here's our female side view. Here's the pubic bone and the tailbone and the spine. Here's the bladder and the urethral canal, the uterus and the vaginal canal, and the rectum and the anal canal. With prolapse, pelvic organ prolapse, this rectal canal can start to drop into the vaginal canal, or the urethral canal and the bladder can start to drop. But specifically, if you have a rectocele, that's where that's dropping into the vaginal canal. And as you can imagine, if that's dropping, it's kind of creating a pocket of poop that can kind of sag down into the vaginal canal. So some people find that putting a finger inside their vaginal canal and pressing backwards, that's called splinting. That can actually help you poop and help kind of get that pocket of poop that's stuck down there, get it up and over. I have a lot of other resources on pelvic organ prolapse, but that's just one little tip as an introduction. And then after you're done pooping, end with a pelvic floor squeeze. So that helps to indicate to your body that you're done pooping and we want stuff to stop coming out. We're done and let's stand up. Okay, pelvic floor physical therapy, I definitely recommend if you're struggling with constipation. A lot of times people, well, number one, a lot of people haven't heard of pelvic PT at all. And then if you have heard of it, you're probably thinking more like vaginal canal stuff or pain with sex, but constipation and bowel health is a huge part of pelvic health and pelvic floor physical therapy. And then talk to your healthcare provider. Your providers are there for you. So talk to them if you're having leaking, talk to them if you're having pain, talk to them if you're having difficulty passing stool, talk to them if you have blood in your stool, talk to them if you're having constipation. Let them help you find solutions. Don't suffer in silence. Don't feel like you have to find do-it-yourself strategies for everything. There's resources out there. And if your provider, when you talk to them, if they're not receptive and they're like, oh, no big deal, then I would encourage you to talk to another provider and keep being an advocate for yourself until you find solutions. One last thing that I'd also like to add is that leaking gas is also a sign of pelvic floor dysfunction. And so if you're leaking gas, meaning you're farting or you're passing gas when you didn't mean to, then also talk to your provider and see a pelvic floor PT if you're able to. Thank you. And let's move on to our very last section. I really appreciate you guys for being here. And remember, I want you to be your bladder expert in the family and be the bowel expert in the family and be the pelvic floor expert so that you can be that little pelvic floor ambassador talking about pelvic health and pelvic floors and bladders and bowels wherever you go. And if you need any resources or tools, I'm here for you. Thank you for being here.